Yeah, it's like this. I really lack the motivation to dress up in the button up and the blazer. What you're seeing is a really tired ass man who lacks the motivation to get dressed for this review, because that movie, oh my god, that shit put me to sleep. That was brutal. A lot of red too, sorry about that. Like the red background, red shirt, all that anger that you're feeling right now, it's because of this. I for one apologize for it. I'm sorry. Let's just talk about this movie. The Huntsman Winter's War. So the Huntsman Winter's War is the spinoff. I'm gonna call it a spinoff. It's a prequel, it's a sequel, it's the spinoff that no one was really asking for to Snow White and the Huntsman. Snow White and the Huntsman, a movie I actually enjoyed for what it was. I had fun with the whole weird dark twist on the fairy tale thing. I enjoyed that shit. So now this movie comes out. Emily Blunt plays Elsa in this movie. She doesn't actually play Elsa. She plays someone else. I don't even remember her character's name in this movie. Don't ask me to look it up because I lack the motivation to look it up. My brain lacks the motivation to remember it. She's the Diet Coke of Elsa. So Elsa, in fact, I'm very sure this movie would not have existed without If Frozen never happened, this movie wouldn't have happened. But you gotta cash out on some of that Elsa love. So, alright, so Diet Coke Elsa is looking for the magic mirror because it's gone missing. So Chris Hemsworth and a few dwarves and Jessica Chastain have to get the mirror first, or else really bad thing. It's just, death, destruction, ice everywhere, standard fairy tale shit. And alright, I've actually calmed down a little bit. I feel like I came into this review really harsh. No, the movie did bore the shit out of me, but there were some neat things in the movie. Had some neat fights, neat action. The world was really lush. There's a scene where they're all just kind of hanging out in the forest, and the animals were really cool looking. I was like, this movie, it had, I don't want to say promise, it had potential. But what is potential, really, if it's not completely wasted, like they did in this movie? I'm gonna take a scene that perfectly illustrates the whole of this movie. All right, there's this barroom brawl. It's actually a pretty sweet brawl. Everyone's fighting. There's one scene, a couple of guys have Chris Hemsworth's arms, and this other guy comes up and starts punching Chris Hemsworth in the stomach. Very next cut, Hemsworth is thrown out of the bar into the rain, and this guy comes up, he's walking over him, and he has an axe. He's like, you thought you'd win. He's kicking him, he's taunting him. He's gonna kill him, but he doesn't. It's pretty early on in the movie. You know he's not gonna die because it's called Huntsman. It's like in the title of the movie, so Hemsworth is fine here. But the point is, when your friends had him bound, had his arms back like this, why were you punching him in the stomach and then had him thrown out in the rain? Now you're taunting him with an axe. Why not, when your friends had his arms back, why not just take your axe and just be like, all right, problem solved. He's dead. Bury it in his chest, bury it in his face. There's no reason he should have walked away from this situation, but he did. It's not like Hemsworth had the map to Skywalker in his head and the bad guys needed him alive. There's no reason Hemsworth should have walked away from that. So dumb calls like that and dumb editing choices throughout this movie. This movie has romantic banter and attempts. If the action's not being thrown at the screen, everything is a failed attempt, really. 90% of it. Attempted humor, attempted romantic banter, and all of it falls flat. The humor falls flat, the romantic banter falls flat. There's a scene where they're in this rowboat, and I was like, this is Anakin, meet Padme, because this is bad. And this movie, I cannot stress this enough, was so boring. I was yawning so much because there's just a lot of walking and going to and talking and our battle, no, more walking. It's like, when Lord of the Rings came out and you had that friend who was like, the movie was kind of boring, just a lot of walking and talking. But Lord of the Rings is actually, fucking good. Good characters, I can go on and on, but I have reviews of those if you want to know my thoughts on Lord of the Rings. This is like everything that your friend who didn't like Lord of the Rings was bitching about Lord of the Rings, but he was wrong about. Translated to this movie, he'd be completely right. Charlize Theron's in the movie, I guess. Why? I don't know. She's alive for the sake of having her alive. I thought she was just gonna turn to the camera and be like, yeah, Horcrux. Like Harry Potter? All right, so now I'm here. And to be clear, I don't know if it's a Horcrux or just no real, she's alive because. And Emily Blunt in this movie, all right, here it is. This is just miscast to the 10th degree. She wasn't good in this role because they took everything about Emily Blunt and they just completely scrapped it and they made her a lifeless little hollow frozen heart asshole with no emotion whatsoever. Which is fine if that character calls for it. I'm just saying Emily Blunt shouldn't have been that person because that's not where Emily Blunt's powerhouse performance comes from. Having a character in a role that bleeds Emily Blunt of anything that makes Emily Blunt is like casting Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. I get it if they want to have this emotionless, somber person, that's just not the actor to do it. You need like female Christopher Walken, someone who just really thrives on their presence and doesn't show emotion, but that's actually their strength. And I get actors wanting to branch out and do other things. I'm just saying, well, now she knows, and now she can get back to being the Emily Blunt that is really good and stuff. In fact, I feel like if you swap the female roles in this movie, I feel like Jessica Chastain would have made a better Diet Coke Elsa, and Emily Blunt would have made a better warrior woman in the movie. I mean, we've seen from The Edge of Tomorrow, she kicks ass, so why not? Guys, point is, this movie was a wreck, it was a mess, it was boring as shit. It did have some neat action sequences in it, and it did have some promise, especially near the end where they have some charming sentimentality going on. Not a complete waste, but it's like 90% waste. I'm just saying, the Huntsman Winter's War, not gonna remember this one in T-1 day. Yeah, already forgot. All right, so here's a good question. And you gotta really use your imagination on this one, given the fact that these dark retellings of fairy tales aren't really working out the way studios want them to work out. What is a fairy tale you would like to see have that happen to it, but, you know, done well? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.